Support for the roundup comes from Symphony 3. Councils around the country are working hard to keep their communities safe and prepared before, during and after emergencies such as bushfires and floods. And in recent weeks, Symphony 3 has been working with councils around Victoria, including Greater Bendigo, Mildura, Ararat and Golden Plains, to create emergency dashboards, pulling together live data including weather, traffic, emergency incidents, unplanned and planned disruptions, news and social media feeds. An emergency dashboard is cost-effective and can be deployed in just 3 days. Find out more at www.symphony3.com. Coming up today, pressure builds on a newly elected mayor to step down. A South Australian council CEO resigns after 1 year in the job. Hobart City's new plan to tackle antisocial behaviour. A resignation triggers a by-election for another Victorian council. Councillors report growing pressures in their role. Sydney's Lord Mayor issues a new housing challenge to the state government. And the curious case of the blurry councillors. Hello, I'm Chris Eddy, back with more news from and about councils across Australia and beyond on Australia's #1 local government podcast. This is the Local Government News Roundup, and it's brought to you by the Victorian Local Governance Association, the national broadcaster on all things local government, with support from Symphony 3, simple, connected customer experiences, and Rath Engineering Development, smarter local government systems built from real, on-the-ground experience. Great to have you with us wherever you are across Australia or around the world for the Local Government News Roundup. It's Wednesday, the 1st of April, and don't worry, it's an April Fool's free zone here. Here are today's top 3 stories. The Victorian Liberal Party pre-selection scandal is threatening to spread to local government. At Wyndham City Council, new Mayor Preet Singh, elected just last week, is now under pressure from within council and beyond to resign after reports he wrote a supportive character reference for a friend later jailed for child sex offences. It's the same issue that's forced the pre-selected Liberal Party candidate for Western Metropolitan Region to step down shortly after winning the ballot over incumbent Moira Deeming, herself a former councillor at the City of Melton. According to The Age, Councillor Singh says the letter was written in April 2024 before he was elected. He's calling the coverage an unfair trial by media. He told the Star Weekly that on reflection he had shown poor judgment in relation to the matter. Wyndham's newly elected Deputy Mayor Jasmine Hill says the issue goes to ethical standards in public office. Councillor Larry Zhao says many locals are disturbed and want Councillor Singh to step down. Last night, Werribee MP John Lister announced that he'd written to Local Government Minister Nick Stakos about the issue, seeking advice on what steps are being taken to restore confidence in the office of Mayor. He says his constituents believe Councillor Singh should step down from the position. Councillor Singh says he'll make a statement in the coming days. In South Australia, Clare and Gilbert Valley's Council Chief Executive David Stobb will leave the role in June after the council formally accepted his resignation at a special meeting. Mr Stobb has been with the council since March last year. He'll finish on June 20 after a 3-month handover period. And Hobart City Council is trialling 3 Safe City liaison officers to patrol antisocial behaviour hotspots in the CBD and to keep in close contact with local businesses. ABC News reported that the officers will wear body-worn cameras but will have no policing powers and will be on duty during business hours Monday to Friday. The council says the program will cost about $300,000 a year using repurposed existing roles. And there you have today's top 3 stories from the Local Government News Roundup. Now, for more news out of Victoria, and Kingston City Council has announced the immediate resignation of Melaleuca Ward Councillor Tess Law. Councillor Law was elected in November 2024 and her resignation will trigger a by-election. Mayor Georgina Oxley expressed her gratitude for Councillor Law's service particularly her representation of Melaleuca Ward, and extended best wishes for her future endeavours. CEO Peter Bean confirmed that the Mayor and Deputy Mayor will support Melaleuca residents during the coming weeks. The VEC will oversee the by-election process, and eligible residents in the ward will be required to vote. The date for the by-election is yet to be set. Victorian Councillors are reporting growing pressure on the job with new results from the 2025 VLGA Victorian Councillor Census now released. The survey drew 329 responses, more than half of all councillors elected in the state. VLGA Chief Executive Catherine Arndt says the data shows incivility as a major issue, with bullying and non-sexual harassment reported by a quarter of male councillors and more than half of women. The census also found women were twice as likely to face high levels of hostility. Councillors say tight budgets and complex rules from other levels of government are also limiting what councils can deliver. For a discussion on the census and its findings, tune in to VLGA Connect, out now on YouTube and podcast. Greater Geelong Councillor and former Mayor Trent Sullivan has missed out on a top spot on the Liberal ticket for the upper house seat of Western Victoria in the lead up to this year's state election. Councillor Sullivan nominated for one of the first two positions on the upper house slate, usually the most winnable, but party pre-selectors have backed sitting MP Bev MacArthur for the number one spot. According to the Geelong Times, former Burwood MP Graham Watt got the number two spot. It comes as Greater Geelong prepares new guidance for councillors running for higher office, with debate continuing over whether candidates should be required to step aside during campaigns. A former Greater Dandenong Mayor is asking the state's local government inspectorate to step in over a councillor's leave of absence. According to the Star Journal, Peter Brown says Councillor Lana Formoso has missed 5 meetings since mid-November, and he argues the leave granted in February was invalid under council rules. He claims the request was not made in writing, was not on the agenda, and did not set out dates or reasons. The council says the Local Government Act requires it to grant any reasonable request, and it resolved unanimously to approve the leave. Back to Melbourne's west, more than 100 locals rallied on the weekend at Taylors Road in Delahaye, saying the daily gridlock has become a safety risk. Brimbank Mayor Councillor Virginia Tarkos says the community has reached breaking point, with thousands of people stuck on a road never built for today's traffic. She says Taylors Road was designed for about 1,200 vehicles an hour, but it's now carrying more than 2,000, linking the Calder and Western freeways. The Fix Taylors Road campaign is calling on the state government to declare it a state arterial road, duplicate it and deliver the upgrade without delay. From July 1, 3 councils in Melbourne's southeast and Gippsland will get a new provider for their immunisation service. Cardinia Shire, the City of Casey and Baw Baw Shire have endorsed a shared contract with HCA Healthcare Australia, replacing the current provider as the deal expires. The councils say the new arrangement will cover national immunisation program vaccinations, plus school sessions, council flu programs and catch-up clinics. Port Phillip Council is looking to make a small piece of TV history easier to find, a plaque marking Graham Kennedy's childhood home in Balaclava. The council put it up in 2019 at 32 Nelson Street, but fencing has left it out of view. The blog TV Tonight raised the issue, and veteran presenter Pete Smith has urged the council to relocate it. Chief Executive Chris Carroll says staff are checking possible new sites with the goal of moving the existing plaque by the end of June. If it cannot be moved, the council says it will be considered in its heritage recognition program. In other news, the 2026 Mayoral Advisory Panel has met for the first time with Local Government Minister Nick Stakos. The panel includes Melbourne Lord Mayor Nick Rees, along with a broad representation of the state's councils. The mayors of Murrindindi, Frankston, Casey, Whittlesea and Hepburn are among those included in this year's group. Kingston Council is asking residents to help shape the future of local Australia Day events. The consultation is looking at how people currently spend the day and what role they want council to play in running or supporting activities. Kingston currently marks the day with a citizenship ceremony and sponsorship of the Mordiac Carnival fireworks. After a summer of big bushfires, the state and federal governments are giving councils more on-the-ground support for recovery. 15 councils will share in $15 million around Victoria to fund 27 new community recovery offices and to establish local recovery hubs. It's the Local Government News Roundup for Wednesday, the 1st of April, edition number 570. Just another word on the VLGA's 2025 Councillor Census. The results are now out. There's a full report available to peruse, and we discuss that with a panel of experts on this week's edition of VLGA Connect. My guests are Dr. Josh Fergus, the President of the VLGA and a councillor at Monash. Also John Armitage, the researcher from Kudos Research, and Dawn Bray from the VLGA. Tune in for that special episode of VLGA Connect, available now on YouTube and on podcast. In New South Wales, Narrabri Shire has a new councillor after a countback vote filled a vacancy created following the resignation of former councillor Amanda Brown in February. Mark Strahl was declared elected yesterday and will take his place around the council table, bringing it back to a full complement of 9 councillors. Sydney's Lord Mayor Clover Moore says the state needs to put more skin in the game on housing by unlocking its own land for new homes. The Sydney Morning Herald reported that the City of Sydney has identified 32 state-owned sites that it says could deliver about 14,300 homes, including harbourfront hotels at Darling Harbour that could be redeveloped into high-density apartments. Councillor Moore says using government-controlled land near transport, jobs and existing services could add supply faster without pushing more development to Sydney's fringe. She points to long-dormant sites around Redfern and North Eveleigh and land near McDonaldtown Station as places that could move quickly if planning settings and rail operations change. Cumberland Council has voted to put its draft budget out for public comment, but the debate inside the chamber was heated, with one councillor even voting against it, according to the Daily Telegraph. Councillor Steve Christo called the plan a heartless money grab, saying the local government area is one of New South Wales' most disadvantaged. He objected to fee increases for things like mobile food trucks, inspections and development paperwork. Other councillors pushed back, though, arguing higher rates and fees are needed to keep services running and fund major upgrades. The budget is reported to include a modest surplus. Waverley Council has voted to double the number of affordable homes it sets aside for women and families fleeing domestic and family violence. City Hub reported that the extra units will take the dedicated total from 2 to 4, and councillors say safe housing can be the difference between leaving and going back. Bondi Ward Councillor Michelle Stevenson told the meeting stable accommodation helps people recover and helps children regain a sense of normal life. Mayor Will Namesh says the council is proud of the move and argues few councils provide this kind of targeted support. In Sydney's Hunters Hill, councillors have adopted a local strategy aimed at preventing and responding to anti-Semitism as reports of hate incidents rise across Australia. J-Wire reported that the plan uses a best practice framework, formally adopting the International Holocaust Remembrance Alliance working definition alongside relevant state and federal laws. Councillor Carol Tanner-Slayman says the policy sets clear boundaries and tells residents hatred will not be tolerated. Supporters say the approach could be a model for other councils. A big battery project near Deniliquin is moving into the next phase, and Edward River Council wants locals to weigh in on how the community benefits. A draft voluntary planning agreement is on exhibition until April 22nd, setting out what developer Aventis Energy will contribute and how the money can be used. Mayor Ashley Hall says the deal aims to deliver real and lasting benefits and that community feedback is vital. The battery would sit about 8 kilometres southeast of town with a capacity of around 120 megawatts, storing 480 megawatt hours. And Mid-Coast Council is trying to move faster on flood recovery after last year's May event that left dozens of damaged roads and bridges. the council has identified 56 major restoration work packages, valued at around $204 million, with the Bight Bridge the biggest single job at around $35 million. Infrastructure Director Rob Scott says repairs cannot begin until the New South Wales Reconstruction Authority approves each project. But the council wants contractors ready to go. It's already spent more than $40 million on emergency and immediate reconstruction works, and so far has been reimbursed just $6.1 million under disaster recovery funding. More news out of New South Wales. In Maitland, the local rugby club is teaming up with council to look after its home ground at Marcellin Park. The Newcastle Weekly reports the Maitland Blacks have signed a 3-year partnership with Maitland City Council, covering maintenance, access and shared responsibilities for the site. Wollongong's Rainbow Crossing has a new home, moved to a pedestrian-only link on Marine Drive, opposite the Ted Tobin viewing platform. Lord Mayor Councillor Tanya Brown says the shift is about safety after concerns the original crossing on Cliff Road was shared with vehicles. And Wagga Wagga City Council and Lockhart Shire Council are launching Weathering Well, a run of events, workshops and training aimed at strengthening rural mental health. The program is part of a regional drought resilience plan backed by New South Wales and the Future Drought Fund. Support for the Local Government News Roundup comes from Rath Engineering Development, smarter systems for local government, like Red GMS, helping councils manage gravel pits and projects, track quality, test results, blending options and haulage, and to know the true cost per tonne from day one. Rath Engineering Development can give you a one-off report that uses your existing pit data to pinpoint the best gravel sources for your next re-sheeting program or disaster restoration works, saving your council time and money. For local government systems built from real on-the-ground experience, talk to the team at Rath Engineering Development. Head to rathed.com to find out more. To Queensland now, and Brisbane City Councillors are asking questions after parts of a recent meeting live stream made some speakers look blurred or out of focus. According to ABC News, Labor Councillor Emily Kim says residents messaged saying they could not see her clearly, while Independent Nicole Johnston raised similar concerns. The council chair, Sandy Landers, says there was no deliberate blurring, and an internal report points to routine camera tracking glitches. The Chief Information Officer, Stephen Lokay, says the system sometimes needed manual recalibration, but the audio record still met legal requirements. But Councillor Kim has referred the matter to Queensland's Crime and Corruption Commission. On the Sunshine Coast, councillors are back to bid to have a large hinterland area recognised as an international dark sky reserve. The plan covers places like Mullaney, Mapleton and Kenilworth, and it comes with a lighting management plan to keep outdoor lights dark sky compliant. Advocate Dr Ken Wishaw says much of the work is already done, with more than 200 streetlights replaced in the past 6 months, often without residents noticing. Bundaberg Regional Council has opted for continuity, keeping Councillor Steve Cooper on as Deputy Mayor for another year. The role is reviewed annually, and at the March meeting, Councillor Bill Trevor nominated Councillor Cooper for a term running from April 1st to March 31st next year. Mayor Helen Blackburn said Councillor Cooper has been a steady stand-in at events and forums, including during the recent flood. And Bundaberg is putting a fresh face forward with Bundaberg Tourism launching a new destination brand, a rebuilt website and a coordinated marketing push. Chief Executive Catherine Reid says it's less about a slogan and more about telling a shared local story to drive real jobs and visitor spending. The campaign is aimed at higher value travellers, and the website is designed to make planning and booking easier. After recent flooding, the message is that the region is open, accessible and ready to welcome visitors. More news from around the country now, and in Tasmania there's more insight into the circumstances leading to the resignation of a former deputy mayor at Derwent Valley Council, as reported by the Mercury. Jessica Cosgrove, who resigned last week as a councillor, is also the operator of the new Norfolk market. Ms Cosgrove says the market's future is at risk after the council moved to call expressions of interest for outdoor events instead of extending her lease. She says she declared her interests and never breached the code of conduct, but felt targeted by public criticism. Mayor Michelle Dracoulis says the market is not being shut down and the current operator can reapply through a transparent process, which Ms Cosgrove argues will add red tape and cost ratepayers money. In South Australia, Mount Gambier Council has congratulated Councillor Jason Virgo on his projected win in the state seat of MacKillop. Councillor Virgo has been on statutory leave during the campaign. If confirmed as the successful candidate, his win means Mount Gambier will face a casual vacancy for an area councillor. But the council says the vacancy will not trigger a supplementary election because it falls within 12 months of the next periodic election. The position would be held open until November. Driving through Glenelg could soon get a lot slower. The Adelaide Advertiser reports that Holdfast Bay Council is considering a plan to slash speed limits on Jetty Road and 18 surrounding streets from 40 kilometres per hour down to just 30. Council administration argues the move is vital for pedestrian safety, citing fatality risks as a primary factor. That's despite SA police records showing no fatal crashes on the strip in the last 5 years. Local business owners have called the proposal speed limit fluff, and they're arguing that without better police enforcement, the change will only hurt traders while doing little to stop hoons. A final vote on the plan has been deferred to a future meeting. For hundreds of community clubs in Adelaide's south, the Onkaparinga Council is weighing a new kind of help. A proposal before councillors would see council offer shared administration support, like bookkeeping and compliance work, to clubs that struggle to find volunteers. But council documents warn the model could expose the council to legal and financial risk, including governance and fraud concerns, and would stretch staff resources if it had to serve more than 250 clubs. Adelaide Now reported that no option has been endorsed yet, and the council says it will keep talking with clubs before deciding. Let's go to Western Australia. In Geraldton, councillors are weighing in on proposed changes to how WA local government elections are run. A report to council responds to a VLGA request for feedback, including whether all councillors should be elected every 4 years and whether voting should be compulsory. The Geraldton Guardian reported that most of the City of Greater Geraldton councillors surveyed backed the current 2-year half-spill model, saying it helps with continuity and knowledge. They also lean toward keeping voting voluntary unless elections move to a 4-year cycle. In South Perth, rangers are trialling a new way to protect disability parking spaces and make sure they're available for the people who need them. The city is testing an ACROD permit scanner, which lets officers check permits in real time and spot ones that have been cancelled or deactivated. South Perth's community rangers will work alongside National Disability Services on the trial. The council says the aim is fairer enforcement and better access to ACROD bays by strengthening the integrity of the permit program. And for drivers and freight operators in WA's goldfields, two shires say the case for sealing a notorious stretch of highway is only getting stronger. The shire presidents of Meekatharra and Wiluna have thrown their support behind a petition to State Parliament, urging action on the last 124 kilometres of unsealed road between the towns. They say the gravel section keeps deteriorating and crashes are an unfortunate regular occurrence. The petition has now closed with 594 signatures. The next step is a parliamentary committee review. Heading overseas and to the UK, the city of Derby is weighing what comes next after a car hit pedestrians in the city centre, sending 7 people to hospital with serious injuries. BBC News reported that police have been given more time to question a 36-year-old man on suspicion of attempted murder. Derby City Council leader, Councillor Nadine Peatfield, says the council will thoroughly consider what the incident means for safety on busy streets and at public events. The authority says it already uses hostile vehicle mitigation in public realm upgrades and reviews city centre risks regularly. Conservative Councillor Steve Hassell is calling for a targeted assessment of high footfall areas, looking for design solutions that protect people without turning the centre into a fortress. Some council leaders in the UK are warning the government's plan to merge 15 local authorities into 5 could come with a steep upfront bill. Hampshire County Council leader Nick Adams-King told the BBC that residents feel they are being pulled away from long-standing district identities, and he estimates the transition could cost at least £120 million over the next decade or more. Ministers say the new councils would be in place by April 2028 and argue the shake-up will cut confusion and save taxpayers' money. Labor MP Dame Annalise Dodd says the current setup is hard to defend and people deserve a system that is clearer and more accountable. In the US, New York City is offering some municipal workers free on-site childcare for infants and toddlers, a pilot that could shape the mayor's push toward universal care. Mayor Zoran Mamdani says the new centre will serve about 40 children from 6 weeks to 3 years old with extended hours through summer. The program began under former Mayor Eric Adams for a small group of city staff and is now set to expand to more workers in the building and across other sites. Ride-hailing is part of daily life in big American cities, but the taxes on Uber and Lyft are still catching up. In Philadelphia, the Mayor, Sherelle Parker, wants to add a $1 fee to every ride, with the money going to public schools facing a budget shortfall. Her office says it could raise $192 million over 5 years and help avoid layoffs. The proposal is meeting resistance at City Council, and Uber says higher costs would hit riders and drivers. According to governing.com, there are at least 51 state and local ride-hailing taxes nationwide, funding everything from regulation to roads and transit. In Canada, Alberta's Municipal Affairs Minister Dan Williams says he only learned of a complaint behind an RCMP fraud and corruption probe when it appeared in the news. The RCMP has seized phones from Calgary's former Mayor Jyoti Gondek, former Councillor Sean Chew and current Councillor Andre Chabot. CTV News reported that the Minister's department has not been formally briefed and has had no requests from police, arguing the matter is for investigators. Calgary's current Mayor Jeremy Farkas says it is his understanding that no councillors are targets and the devices may be evidence in an inquiry involving a third party. Toronto City Council is taking a big swing at food affordability, backing a pilot for not-for-profit, city-run grocery stores. The city has asked staff to develop a plan for 4 locations aimed at so-called food deserts, according to CTV News. Critics warn grocery is a low-margin business and cities do not have the supply chains, logistics and purchasing power of major retailers. Foodbank CEO Neil Hetherington says the question is whether Toronto can compete on price without scale. Staff have about a year to report back and there's no funding set aside yet. In New Zealand, Invercargill City Council has decided its Deputy Mayor, Grant Dermody, did not commit a material breach of the council's code of conduct. That's despite an investigator finding otherwise. The complaint alleged Councillor Dermody swore at a senior staff member during a rugby park briefing. The Southland Tribune reported that Councillor Dermody denies the language, saying he only said, "That's ridiculous," in an aggressive tone. Several councillors were conflicted and stood aside as others raised concern about the cost, now more than $33,000, and about setting a precedent for what counts as a breach. And finally, Wanganui councillors have approved an overseas delegation with plans to visit Japan, China and Singapore in June, according to the NZ Herald. The trip is aimed at rebuilding international links paused by the pandemic and pushing relationships toward formal sister city partnerships. A report to Council says mayoral involvement is seen as crucial. Mayor Andrew Tripe says the visit is not a junket and the focus is outcomes that benefit the district. Council staff say if costs rise, they may send fewer delegates, shorten the trip or postpone it. And that's the latest from the Roundup for Wednesday the 1st of April, edition number 570. That's our last edition for this week. We'll be back following the Easter break, but keep an eye on lgnewsroundup.com for any breaking news in the interim. Head to the website for the transcript for this episode, including the links to the stories that we've referenced. If you have comments or feedback or story suggestions, you can email me to chris@lgnewsroundup.com. The podcast is brought to you by the Victorian Local Governance Association, the national broadcaster on all things local government, with support from Symphony 3, simple, connected customer experiences, and from Rath Engineering Development, smarter local government systems built from real on-the-ground experience. We record in the city of Greater Geelong, Victoria, on the land of the Wadawurrung people of the Kulin Nation. Until next time, thanks for listening and bye for now. Support for the Local Government News Roundup comes from Rath Engineering Development, smarter systems for local government, like Red GMS, helping councils manage gravel pits and projects, track quality, test results, blending options and haulage, and know the true cost per tonne from day one. Rath Engineering Development can give you a one-off report that uses your existing pit data to pinpoint the best gravel sources for your next resheeting program or disaster restoration works, saving your council time and money. For local government systems built from real on-the-ground experience, talk to the team at Rath Engineering Development. Head to rathed.com.au to find out more.